The basics of accessing databases using LINQ are covered in Session 10 of the Essential Skills course. In this lesson, you will learn how to use the Average LINQ method to carry out a complex database query. To begin, open the Market Trader project from your Sample Files folder. And open marketaverage.aspx in Design View. When complete, this page will allow the user to get the average value of a market across a range of dates. To make this possible, you will need to use the Average LINQ method. Open the code behind file of marketaverage.aspx now, and add the following code to the end of the button Get Average Value click event handler. Using market trader data context data equals new market trader data context int market ID equals convert.toInt32 drop down list market dot selected value date time start date equals calendar date from dot selected date date time finish date equals calendar date to dot selected date var result equals data dot quotes dot where quote lambda quote dot market ID equals market ID and quote dot quote date is greater than or equal to start date and quote dot quote date is less than or equal to finish date. This code retrieves records from the quote database table for the selected market and date range. If you don't understand this code, refer back to Session 10 of the Essential Skills course in this series. Now add the following code on the next line to retrieve the average value of the quote records that you've retrieved from the database. Decimal average quote value equals result dot average quote lambda quote dot quote value. The Average LINQ method allows you to get a single average value from all of the records that were retrieved from the database. LINQ contains several other aggregate methods. These include sum, which adds together the values of all records, count, which counts the number of records, max, which gets the highest value, min, which gets the lowest value, and first, which gets the first value. If you are familiar with the SQL language, you will recognize these as counterparts to SQL functions. You could be forgiven for thinking that the average value will be calculated after the results are returned from the database. In fact, the Visual Studio compiler is extremely intelligent and looks ahead in your code to send a single SQL query to the database that only returns the average value. You could have calculated the average value by using a C# for each loop to loop through each of the quote records from the database. But it is almost always better to let SQL Server perform the calculation for you. There are two reasons why this is better. Firstly, SQL databases have all kinds of optimizations that are designed to speed up calculations. And secondly, allowing SQL Server to perform the calculation means that it only needs to return a single value. If the database is on a remote server, this can greatly reduce network traffic. Finally, add the following code on the next line to display the average value on the page. Label average value dot text equals average quote value dot toString 0.00. Now test your code by viewing marketaverage.aspx in your web browser. When the page loads, click Get Average Value, and the average value for the quotes in the selected period is displayed. Close your web browser now, and close Visual Studio. You've now completed Lesson 10.1. Use the Average LINQ method.